Right. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I think in the last class we have discussed something about basics of Java programming, and so now we are going to cover the topic.
Nagaraj sir,
Sir,
I just want to clarify you. This is
yes, sir.
the backlog session, sir. That we
Okay,
done
sir.
the last time is the regular session, sir.
Okay,
So
sir.
this is
Yes, sir.
the backlog
was
session,
already
sir.
existing in
That
third
we
Okay,
year.
done the
sir.
last time is the regular session, sir.
Okay,
So
sir. Okay, sir.
this is
Yes, sir.
the
Topics about some unit, and later
Okay, sir.
again you can get back and you can finish fast track point of view. We can cover the syllabus, sir. Like
Okay, sir.
today and second you need a session, we'll provide you, sir. But fast
Okay, sir.
track backlog point of view, we have to discuss, sir.
Okay, sir. We'll
Yeah.
discuss
Thank you,
an
sir.
important and
Yes,
gunshot
sir.
question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about important topics, sir. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about important topics, sir. So within the OOP, so we cover almost inheritance, and if possible, we'll cover the abstraction and encapsulation. Okay. Uh, Next, and after that, we are going to discuss about exception handling, and as well as some strings and packages. Strings and packages. So these are the topics we are going to discuss in today's class. Right. So coming to the point. So before we start the topics, so you need to understand what is a data type exactly. So in Java, there are two types of data types. There are two types of and two categories of data types. So one is primitive data type. One is primitive data types. Primitive or data types. And another one is non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types. All right. So the data types are categorized into two types, so primitive and non-primitive. Okay. So already we know most of the data types like a byte, short, int, and then long, float, double, and character, and boolean. So these data types are called as primitive data types. These data types are called as primitive data types. So coming to the non-primitive data types, like we have a classes and we have interfaces and we have exceptions. Okay, so we call these classes and interfaces. In Java we have the classes, we have the interfaces, as well as we have the exception. So all these are comes under non-primitive data types. So what is the exact difference between the primitive and non-primitive is to the non-primitive data types. To the non-primitive data types, we use values actually. We use what? Values. The values we can store and values we can get. And coming to the non-primitive data types, coming to the non-primitive data type, so we use object instead of values. We use object. That means no values are involved in the non-primitive data types. We use object, we can store an object we can get from the non-primitive data types. Okay, data types are categorized into two types, primitive and non-primitive. The primitive or like in every programming we have the primitive data types like C and C++ and Python and Java. The same scenario, so no change. But what we can do is we can store the These classes may be a free-defined or user-defined. So whatever it is, but we use the object. That means we can store the object and we can get the object. So that is what the main funda you need to remember to understand the concept called as array, soups, and exception, and strings and packages. Right. So coming to the topic, arrays. Coming to the topic, arrays. Okay. So arrays are important. Why? Because we are going to use arrays every time in every application development and programming. So arrays are important. So generally, arrays are nothing but common elements, group of common elements, or group of similar element. So we can say group of similar element is called as an array. Group of similar elements is called as an array. Okay, right. So more than that, so we can say in Java, arrays are nothing but object. Arrays are nothing but object. Arrays are nothing but object. So arrays are a group of similar elements, and arrays are nothing but object. So we can define the array. What is an array means? Array is nothing but group of a similar element, or you can say arrays are nothing but objects in Java. So we will discuss why arrays are object instead of similar data elements. We will discuss. We will tell you that. Okay, but the arrays can be created. Array can be created with the help of data type. Arrays can be created with the help of data types. With the help of data types. So here we have two types again. The data types may be a primitive and data type may be a non-primitive. That means we can create a primitive array as well as non-primitive array. Okay, so to create a primitive array and to create a non-primitive array, so the syntax is same. But what are the changes? If it is a primitive, we use the values. If it is a non-primitive, we use the object. Okay, so with the help of this data types only, we can create the arrays. How to create an array? So we will see the syntax here. The syntax is nothing but so followed. Okay, so first we have to use the data type. Followed by variable name. So here variable name can be anything. So dimension. The dimension may be a single dimension, or dimension may be a more than a single, that is a double or triple or whatever it is. According to the requirement, we are going to use. And followed by new operator, and followed by the same data type, and within the dimension we have to mention the size. Of the array. So this is the syntax to create the arrays in Java. So first point is we are going to use the data type. The data type may be a primitive or may be a non-primitive. And the variable name can be anything, and the dimension is mandatory to create the arrays. So it may be a single or it may be a double or triple, also whatever it is. And followed by the same data type, and within the dimension we have to mention the size of the array. Okay, so for example, I have these many data types as a primitive data types. I have this many classes and interfaces and exception as the non-primitive type. I would like to create an array. So for that, I would like to develop a program. So just observe. So I will create some program here. Java KIET. Okay. I'll take the class called as test2.java. Okay, so I will delete all the things. Okay, so all the statements are completed. Only class and main method is there. So the class name is test and the code is main. So within the main method, I would like to create an array. So to create an array, so we use this syntax. To create an array, we use this syntax. So we use the data type. The data type may be a primitive or non-primitive, and data type followed by the variable name. The variable name can be anything, and the dimension we are going to use. And the dimension we are going to use, and after that new operator, it again we have to mention the size along with the data type. So first I will prefer the primitive data type, that is an integer a and dimension. So here a is the variable and integer is the primitive data type, and equals new operator and int followed by the size of the array. Now let us assume the size of the array is nothing but 3. So this is called as array creation, and this can be called as array of integers. This can be called as array of integer. The meaning is we can store the integer values. We can store the integer values. Why? Because it is a primitive data type. Why? Because it is a primitive data type. So if it is a primitive data type, so mandatory we have to use the data type. We have to use the data type. And after that, you can store the values and you can retrieve the values by using the indexes. Okay, the simple table to store and retrieve. So we use store and retrieve. We use indexes. We use what? Indexes. The indexes always start from 0. Indexes always start from 0 to n. Indexes always start from 0 to n. So n is nothing but size of the array. N is nothing but the size of the array. So store and retrieve from the array to the array, we use the indexes. So the indexes start from 0. So here I would like to use some 0 indexes. I can store the value called as 101, and I can use some another index. So I will use store something called as 102, and a of 2, it is nothing but 103. So totally the size of the array is 3, so that I can store 3 elements. So index always start from 0. So this is called as storing. And after storing the data, you can retrieve using the same indexes. So we need to write some for loop here. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. So only 3 elements are available from 0 to 2. So it should be retrieved, and system.out.println. So elements are from the array called as A. Simple. So you can compile the class and you can execute the class. So Java C space test.java and Java space test So when you execute, so whatever the values you store, so directly you can retrieve from the array with the help of the indexes. Okay, so when you observe this program, so simple. So when you observe this program, so these are nothing but value storing. So these statements are nothing but storing the array, storing the elements into array, storing elements into an array, These are nothing but storing elements into an array, Next, so this statement is nothing but retrieve the elements from array. From an array. So to store the element or to retrieve the elements, we use the same indexes. But we have to mention the per loop and we have to mention the assignment operator like this. So this is will create the array of object. Will create the array of object actually. So this is the integer primitive array so that we can store the integer values and we can retrieve the values from the array by using the say index from 0 to n minus 1. 0 to n minus 1. So n will be the size of the array. And so instead of this three, you can also use a dot length. You can also use a dot length. So a dot length. So now length is a keyword. Length is a keyword to find out the length of an array. To find out the length of an array. So that when you compile the class, so same output will be generated. So what is the use of length keyword? So length keyword is used to find out. Length keyword is used to find out length of an array. Find the length of an array or size of an array. Or size of an array. So length keyword is used to find out length or size of an array. So whatever the topics we have covered, whatever the things we have discussed about arrays, group of similar. If you create the integer array, you can store integer values. If you create the character array, you can store character values. So if you create the double array, you can store only double value. So that is the reason why it is nothing but group of similar elements. We will discuss why it is also called as object. We will discuss. Okay. Next, arrays can be created with the help of data type. Here two types of data types we have, primitive and non-primitive. To create the array, we use the data type and variable name and the dimension and the new operator and along with the size. To store the element into the array, to retrieve the element from array, we use the indexes only. Indexes always start from 0. So when you observe the code, this is array creation. So with the size called as 3, we use integer primitive data type. That means it is called as array of integers. If it is a primitive data type, we use only values. So these are the values we have assigned to the a particular index. And after that, so you can retrieve the same elements by using the same indexes from 0. So instead of directly 3, so you can also use a keyword called as length. So length is used to find out the length of the string. So length of the array actually. Okay. And after that, suppose let us assume the 3 indexes I would like to store. So which is not possible. So why? Because the array size is only limited to 3. But I'll try to store 4 elements. The meaning is only 3 elements we can store actually, but I'll try to store 4th element, so which is not possible. So why? Because the size of the array is only 3. So when you compile, there is no error, but when you try to execute, so it will give an exception. So we will discuss that exception later. And what is the exception? The array index out of bounds exception. So at the index called as 3. So why? Because only 3 elements are allowed, 0, 1 and 2. But when you try to insert a 3 location, so it is give the error message. So that is the reason why. So you should not able to enter. So you are not possible to enter the element, so which is not created with the exact size. Okay. So when you try to access more than the size element. So then only the same errors will occur. Then the same error will occur. So CLS, Java C, test.java, and Java space test. So all the three elements from the arrays are retrieved and they're displayed. But when I try to access the third element, so the third index element, so it is give an error message saying that array index out of bounds exception. So with this, what is the conclusion is, so we can create the array with the help of the data type. So if you create an array, so you should enter only the elements which are equal to the size of the array. So you cannot enter more than 11. So this is the main drawback of the array. This is the main drawback of the array. So what is the main drawback? So you cannot, okay, we cannot, or you cannot store you cannot store elements more than size. You cannot store the element more than size. So you cannot exceed the size. So that is the drawback. That is the main drawback of the arrays. Then what is non-primitive? If it is a primitive, that is okay. So directly we can create like this and we can store the values. We know what is integer, we know what is a float, and we know what is a double, and etc. Then what about non-primitive array? Then what about non-primitive array? So in order to better understanding, so I will stop arrays here. I will stop arrays here. I will go to the next topic called as oops concept inherited. Then I'll come back to the arrays. I will come back to the arrays so that you will exactly understand what is arrays exactly. Okay, right. So coming to the point. So very important concept, object oriented programming structure. So very important, and you will get most of the questions from the oops concepts only. So what are the oops concepts? There are like we have a class, and we have the object, and we have the inheritance, and we have the polymorphism. We have the polymorphism, and we have the encapsulation. And we have the abstraction. So these are called as oops concept. If any language supports this concept, that language will become the object oriented programming language. So that means any programming language which support all these concepts of the oops, that language will become the object oriented programming language. So these concepts are supported by Java. So that is the reason why. So Java is called as object oriented programming language. So why Java is object oriented programming language? Why? Because Java has supported the oops concept. Java has supported the class, Java supports object, Java support inheritance, Java support polymorphism, Java support encapsulation, and Java support abstraction. So that is the reason why Java is called as object oriented programming language. If Python supports this concept, If Python support this concept, then Python also is called as object oriented language. So not only Python, so if PHP support these concepts, PHP is also called as object oriented programming language. If JavaScript support this concept, JavaScript is also called as object oriented programming language. So what is the meaning is, what is the meaning? So if any language support this concept, that language will become the object oriented programming language. So that language will become the programming language object oriented. So Java is called as object oriented, Python is also called as object oriented, and PHP is also called as object oriented programming language. So JavaScript is also called as object oriented programming language. Why? Because all these languages are supported the OOPS concept. So that is the reason why we call it as object oriented programming language. Object oriented programming language. Right. So we will discuss one by one. So what is first? We know about class and we know about object. So we are going to discuss about inheritance. What is inheritance? What is inheritance? So we will discuss inheritance. Simple. Go to the file. I would like to create one Java file here. I would like to create some Java file here. The Java file name is sample.java. Or otherwise I will support only class1.java. Okay. Class1.java. Okay. I will write the class here. So public class1. Open the class and close the class. So next, public void some method 1. So within this method, system.out.println. So within this method 1 from class 1. So instead of method 1, so you can also continue with M1. So let us continue with M1. Okay, so M1 from class 1. I would like to develop one more method. So public void M2. Open the method and close the method. So system.out.println. So M2 from class 1. So right. So observe here, the class name is class 1. And we have the two methods, M1 and M2. So in the same way, I would like to create class 2 also. But but method names are M3 and M4. So I will change the method names here. So M3 and M4. So save the class. Class2.java. So inside the class 2 we have M3 and M4. Inside the class 1 we have M1 and M2. So M1, M2 belongs to class 1 and M3, M4 belongs to class 2. Okay. Next, I would like to create one more class. The class name is called as class 3. Okay. So this is not a class 2, this is class 3. And I would like to change the method name. M1, M2 and M3, M4 are completed. So now M5, I will continue with M5 and M6. I will change the method name sign. Message is nothing but M6. So this class is called as class 3 dot Java. So class 3, so we have 3 classes totally. We have the 3 classes totally. So class 1, class 2 and class 3. Class 1, class 2 and class 3. So class 1 will have the 2 methods, M1 and M2. Class 2 has 3 methods, sorry, 2 methods, M3 and M4. And class 3 is also contains 2 methods, M5 and M6. So now from the test, I would like to create an object. Why? Because M1 and M2 are non-static and M3 and M4 are non-static. M5 and M6 are also non-static. Then what we need to do? We need to create class 1 object. We need to create class 1 object to access class 1 object to access M1 and M2. So 1.M1 and 1.M2. And after that, we need to create class 2 object. We need to create class 2 object to call M3 and M4. To call M3 and M4. And after that, we need to create class 3 object also. We need to create class 3 object also to call M5 and M6. Right. So we have the 3 classes and 2 methods in each and every classes. So for that, to access each and every method, so we need to create 3 object, class 1 object, class 2 object and class 3 objects are created, and after that we call the non-static methods. So when I compile the class, so automatically it will compile all the 3 classes. All the 3 classes. Okay. So close the main method and close the class. So forgot to close. Okay. Right. So CLS Java ctest.java. So system.out.println. So out variable out print string. Okay. Class 1, just a minute. Class 2. Okay. Class 1. Out at some println, so spelling mistake. Println, spelling mistake. Okay. Class 2. Class 2 also println. Okay. The class 3 also same. Println. Okay. Save the file. CLS Java C test.java. So successfully compiled, and after that you can execute it. Java space test. So M1 and M2 from class 1 are executed. M3 and M4 from class 2 are also executed. M5 and M6 are also executed. The meaning is we have created a class, and within the class we created the object and we called the each and every method from different classes. So now observe, there is a project. We are going to develop. Let us assume there is a project we are going to develop. So let us assume, so we developed 3 classes. For these 3 classes, we have to create 3 objects, like class 1, class 2 and class 3 objects we should create actually. Suppose there is another project. There is another project which takes maybe 100 classes. So depends on the requirement. So it maybe reaches 100 classes. Now how many objects we can create? We should create 100 objects. We need to create 100 objects. We need to create. That means 100 lines of code. 100 lines of code only for object creation. Only for object creation. Okay, so this is problem. The code will become lengthy. Why? Because only 100 lines of code only for object creation. So that means class 1 is equal to new class 1, class 2 equals to new class 2, class 3 equals to new class 3, class 4 equals to new class 4. So like that we have to create 100 lines of classes and 100 lines of code only for object creation. So this is exactly object creation. So that is the reason why. So suppose if I create only a single object, if it is class 3, suppose let us assume the variable name is a dot m1, a dot m2. So no need to create class 2 object, a dot m3, a dot m4, a dot m5 and a dot m6. If this is possible, so the redundant code, the lengthy code will become free. We can remove that redundant lines of code and lengthy code from the programming. But this is not possible. So when I try to compile, so it will give the error. So why? Because a of type class 3, that method. So m1 is not available, m2 is not available, m3 is not available, as well as m4 is not available. Why? Because these methods are belongs to a different classes, but only m5 and m6 we can access. That means with the single object, you can access only a particular methods. So if you create a class 3, you can create only class 3 method, that is m5 and m6. But with the help of class 3, you cannot access m3 and m4 like class 2 methods, and m1 and m2 like class 1 method. That means one object, a particular class method. So that's it. If there is no relationship, directly we can add access. So to overcome the disadvantage of lengthy code, and to establish some relationship among the classes, we use inheritance. What is inheritance? We will discuss what is inheritance exactly. So as of now, just follow getting the properties from one class to another class. So instead of one class to another class, you can also use parent class or base class, parent class or base class to, okay, subclass as well as child. You can say the statement. What is inheritance? The inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from one class to another class, parent to child class, base class to subclass. So or derived class also you can say. Okay, also derived class. So you can say anything. So inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from one class to another class, parent class to child class, or super class to subclass. superclass to subclass, or base. Anything is fine. Anything is fine. So we establish the inheritance. We establish the inheritance with the help of extends keyword. With the help of extends keyword. So to the extends keyword, we have the LHS. We have the LHS. We have the LHS and RHS. We have the LHS and RHS. We have the LHS and RHS to the extents. To the extents. So extend is a keyword. So this is used to apply the inheritance. This is used to apply the inheritance. To the LHS, to the extent, we have the LHS as well as RHS. So what is LHS and what is RHS is? LHS always we call it as subclass. We call it as sub, comma, sub or child or derived class. Child or derived class. The RHS one. The RHS one is called as the RHS one. We call it as super class or parent class or base class. Parent class or base class. Okay. So to redundant, to overcome the problems of lengthy code, we establish the relationship called as inheritance. So inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from one class to another class in four formally. So we can say parent class to child class, super class to subclass, or base class to derived class. So we establish the relationship with the help of extends keyword. To the extends keyword, we have two LHS and RHS. The LHS one is called as a subclass. The RH one is called as a superclass. Okay. So we have three classes with no relationship. With no relationship. That is the reason why it is not possible to access all the methods. This is not possible to access all the methods of the single variable called as A. So if you apply the relationship among this class 3, class 2 and class 1, so that you can call all the methods with the help of single variable. So we establish the relationship here. So we use extends keyword from class 3. I can use class 2 here. I can use class 2 here. So we use the extends keyword. So the LHS one is called as a subclass and RHS one is called as superclass. In this example, class 3 is a subclass, class 2 is a superclass. Okay, got it? So class 3 is a subclass and class 2 is a superclass. Again in class 2 also, we use the same extends keyword. I will use class name called as class 1. So in this example, so LHS1 is nothing but class 2. That is the reason why it is a subclass. And RH1 is called as a class 1. It is nothing but superclass. So I don't want to write anything from class 1. So simply, so what we have written is, in a class 3 we use extends class 2. Okay. Plus 2. So when you observe here, okay, right? So like this you can display. So class 2 extends, class 3 extend class 2, class 3 extend class 2, and class 2 extend class 1, and class 2 extend class 1. So meaning is this is the submost class and this is the submost class, and this is the supermost class. This is the supermost class. This is the supermost class. This is the supermost class, and this is the submost class, and this is the submost class. But class 3 is a subclass to class 2, and class 2 is a subclass to class 1. So this is the hierarchy. This is the hierarchy. So class 3 is a subclass to class 2, and class 2 is also a subclass to class 1. But to the class 1, class 2 is a superclass. To the class 2, class 1 is the superclass. Okay. So we create the submost object. We created the submost object. We created the submost object, that is class 3. So, but class 3 extends class 2. But class 3 extend class 2, as well as class 2 extend class 1, as well as class 2 extend class 1. So in the class 1 there is nothing is there. There is no extend keyword. Okay. Now when you try to execute it, so you can see the output. You can see the output. All the methods are executed. M1 and M2 are executed from class 1. M3 and M4 are executed from class 2, and M5 and M6 are executed from class 3. So, but without creating class 2 and class 1 object, without creating class 1 and class 2 object. So how this is possible? Basically, so this is the code you have written. So this is the code you have written. Simple. I will paste the code here. The execution always start from main method. So which object you are creating? The class 3 object you are creating. So class 3 object you are creating. So it will open the class 3. So where is the class 3? So class 3 is available here. So from class 3 it will take the class 2. Why? Because extend keyword is there. So that it will take the class 2 and directly it will go to the class 2. From class 3 it will take the class 2 and it will open the class 2. From class 2 also we have the extend keyword. So if we have the extend keyword, it will take another class, that is a class 1. The meaning is first it comes to class 3. From class 3 it takes class 2. From class 2 it takes class 1 and it will open the class 1. So there is nothing extend keyword, there is no extend keyword. So it will not take any class directly. So it will create one object. That object will have the methods like this. Get class method and hash code method. Get class method as well as hash code method. Next, it will create another object. This object contains M1 and M2. Okay. Next, it will create one more object. That object contains M3 and M4. Next, finally it will create lost object. This object contains M5 and M6. By seeing the names of the methods, you can specify the class name. So this is nothing but M1 and M2 from class 1, and M3 and M4 from class 2, and M5 and M6 from class 3. And finally there is one more object. That object is nothing but a class called as object. The address of this object, the address of the object is available inside a variable called as a. So this is what happens when you create the object with the help of inheritance. The meaning is, so actually speaks, we use only single statement to create one object only. We use the single statement or single class object creation in the writing side. But when you observe in the background, so it will create almost four objects. That means instead of we create, so on behalf of the developer, so inheritance extends keyword is create the object, and from that object it will call the methods. So that is the reason why. So with the help of single object, with the help of this single object, with the help of this single object, you can, with the help of the single object. So I will with the help of the single object. What is the object? Class 3 object. You can call M1, M2, M3, M4, M5 and M6. Or also you can call get class and hash code. So these methods are from we know about class 3, we know about class 2, we know about class 1. But what about object? So object is the super class to all the Java classes. Basically this is root class. Basically this is called as root class. We call it as root class. So not basically this is root class. The root class means the parent, the main class, as the starting class for the classes. So what is the supermost class for all the Java classes is object. So object is the super class to all the Java classes. Why? Because it is the root class for all the class hierarchy. So in the background, multiple objects got created. In the background, multiple objects got created. So that is the reason why. So I can say inheritance is nothing but it is the process of creating multiple chain of object. Creating multiple chain of object. You can see multiple objects got created. So it is the process of creating multiple chain of objects. With the help of subclass, we can access subclass methods as well as superclass methods. So and the former, the normal definition of inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from base class to derived class, or from, you can say, parent class to child class. Getting the properties from parent class to child class. But so what is our definition? So it is the process of creating multiple chain of object with the help of subclass object, we can access subclass method as well as superclass method. So when you observe, so which object we are creating here? So which object we are creating here? The object called as class 3. The object called as class 3 we are creating. The object called as class 3 are creating. So this is class 3, that is a subclass we are creating. Subclass object we creating. So it is the process of creating multiple chain of object. It is the process of creating multiple chain of object with the help of subclass. With the help of subclass, we can call subclass methods as well as its superclass method. The meaning is class 3 object, once we create the class 3 object, you can call class 3 method as well as class 2 method as well as class 1 method as well as class method like hash code. So this is very important. This is very important. This is what exactly inheritance. To apply the inheritance, we use the extends keyword. The LHS one is called as a subclass and RHS one is called as a superclass. So inheritance, you can say it is the process of creating multiple chain of object, and with the help of subclass object, you can access subclass method as well as superclass method. And getting the properties from one class to another class, parent class to child class, or base class to derived class, and from subclass to superclass to subclass. So what are the meaning of properties? The properties are nothing but methods. The properties are nothing but methods. The methods we can retrieve. The methods we can get from one class to another class. Actually, class 3 contains only and M5 and M6. But how could we can call M3 and M4? Why? Because these are the properties. Why? Because these are the properties. With the help of these properties, with the help of the inheritance, so with the help of the inheritance, so we can, with the help of the inheritance, so we can get the properties from one class to another class. Actually speak, we should get only M5 and M6, but we are accessing. So with the help of the inheritance, so that is the reason why. So you can get the properties from one class to another class. The properties are nothing but variable sign methods. So this is called as inheritance. Okay. So next. What happens? So only single object is created so that you can access class 3, class 2 and class 1. Suppose if I create a subclass object, superclass object. If I create a superclass object, so what is the scenario? Okay, simple. Copy the code again and paste here. Copy the code again and paste here. Okay. The execution always start from main method. So which object you are creating? The class 2 object you are creating. So that it will directly go to class 2. It will not enter into the class 3. Okay, right? It will not enter into the class 3. So from class 2, it will take the class 1. So there is no class 3. Here. There is no class 3. Okay. So the reason why, so it will create object and it will create class 1 and it will create class 2. Okay. So now this is a get class. And hash code and M1 and M2, M3 and M4. Okay, so this object is nothing but object class object. This is the root object or supermost class, and this is class 1 and this is class 2 and this is class 2. The meaning is all from class 2, only from class 2 the objects will be created, but there is no involve of the class 3, so that with the help of this a, so you can access M1, you can access M2, you can access M3, you can access M4, but you cannot access M5 and you cannot access M6. Why? Because the class 3 object is not created. The class 3 object is not created, so that you cannot access. So just observe. So go to the test. Only class 2 object is created. So that means from class 2 it will create class 1 and object, but it will not create class 3, so that you can access M1, M2 and M3 and M4, but you cannot access M5 and M6. Okay, simple. So CLS Java C test.java, and so the error, why? Because M5 and M6 are belongs to class 3, it is not belongs to class 2, class 1 or object. So from subclass to superclass we can access, but from superclass we cannot access the subclass. Suppose, let us assume, if you create a class 1, so directly class 1 and object, but you cannot that is not possible to access class 2 also. Only class 1 and object, so this is the inheritance will be work. Okay, so based on the class only it will access the superclass, but not from the subclasses. Okay, I think got the clarity about the inheritance. The inheritance is nothing but creating group of object. Creating multiple chain of object. With the help of subclass, we can access subclass method as well as superclass method. So this is the inheritance definition. And coming to the normal definition, getting the properties from parent class to child class. Okay, so you can also do like this. And let us assume I will use class 3 here. What is a class 3? Class 3 is a submost class. So now how many objects got created? So class 3 object will create, class 2 object is create, and class 1 object is also create, and object class object is also created. The meaning is from class 3 it will create class 3 object as well as class 2 object as well as class 1 object and object. So 4 objects got created. So that is the reason why you can access 4 object methods. So that means all the objects you can create. Then what about hash code? So I will just type system dot out dot println system.out.println a, the variable name is a only, a dot hash code. This hash code is method from the superclass called as object, but not from the class 1 or not from the class 2 or not from the class 3. So when you observe this, so Java C test.java and Java space test. So M1, M2 are executed from class 1, M3 and M4 are executed from class 2, M5 and M6 are executed from class 3. That means all the class methods are executed, and another some code is executed. That code is from a method called as hash code from the class called as object class. So that So that, so if you create the class 3 object, if you create the class 3 object, you can access all the methods. But if you create the class 2 method, from class 2 onwards you can access. If you create class 1, from class 1 only you can access. So it's all depend on the class from where you can access and the class to where you can access. Okay, so what is the class object you are creating and what are the links? Class 3 extend class 2 and class 2 extend class 1 and class 1 extend obviously superclass called as object. Object is the root class for class hierarchy in Java. So in Java we use classes every time. So all the classes are directly or indirectly subclasses to object class. Directly or indirectly a superclass to subclass to object class. So just see the API. So JSC API here. So already I told you. Okay. So in the first class, Java is nothing but so three kinds of application you can develop. So go to the default package called as java.lang package. What package contains? The package contains only interfaces, classes and exception. So these are the things you can. So you can observe the object. So object is a class. Object is a class that is available inside java.lang package. Java.lang package. So this is the class, and so you can see the message, the root of the class hierarchy. The root of the class hierarchy. So the object class is the root of the class hierarchy. Every class has object as a superclass. So all object including arrays, including the arrays. So nothing but this is the object and all object. All objects including arrays means arrays are also object. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Okay. But it is the root of the class hierarchy. Every Java class as the object as the superclass. That means every Java class is a subclass. Every Java class is a subclass. So you can observe the methods here. You can observe the method here. The method name is hashcode. The method name is hashcode. So which is available inside the object. That means from the superclass. And we have the another method called as a get class. Another method called as get class. So it is also from object class. So that is the reason why I have written these two methods from object. Okay. So with the help of, then what is the situation here? So class 3 extend class 2 and class 2 extends class 1 and class 1 extend object. So object is the superclass to all the Java classes. So class 3 is a subclass to class 2, class 2 is a subclass to class 1 and class 1 is a subclass to object. So this is the way hierarchy is there. This is where hierarchy is there. But you can do one thing here. You can do one thing here. This is the object actually. This is the object actually. So we are storing the object into a variable of same type. We are storing the object into the same type. But if it is inheritance, you can do like this. You can do like this. So what is this meaning is? What is this meaning is? So earlier, so this is the concept. Earlier, this is the concept. Just observe. So class 3, so this is nothing but object. This is nothing but object. And this is nothing but, this is nothing but, just a minute. Okay. And so this is nothing but variable. Okay. So now this is a type. This is the class. We call it as type. And this is nothing but object. This is nothing but object. The object is stored into the same type. Okay. But this time I would like to do like this. This type, I would like to do like this. Okay. So now the object is same. The object is same, but the type is different here. The type is different here. So now what I would like to do is, so I can say the object is a superclass object. Oh, sorry, subclass object. Subclass object. So this is the object. Obviously, class 3 is a subclass object. And what about class 2 type? It is a superclass type. It is a superclass type. So what we are doing here? We are storing subclass into superclass. We are storing subclass into superclass. We are storing subclass into superclass. Okay, we are storing subclass into superclass. We are storing subclass into superclass. This is possible. But object is what? Subclass. Obviously, how many objects are created? 4 objects. Class 3, class 2, class 1, and object. 4 objects. Obviously, it will create 4 objects. Like this. Same method. But what is the change? Directly class 3 methods will not accessible. So you can store the subclass into superclass. Very important. So if you understand this, so all the topics are easy. The remaining topics are easy. So if you not understand, so very difficult. So concentrate. So we are creating subclass object and we are storing it in superclass. So directly you can access class 1 method, you can access class 2 method, but you cannot directly access class 3 methods. But also you can access hash code. Okay, so see the hierarchy here. So you can access object, you can access class 1, you can access class 2, but you cannot access class 3. Why? Because the class 3 is converted into class 2. That means subclass is converted into superclass. The subclass is converted into superclass. Java C test.java. So you cannot access M5 and M6. Why? Because M5 and M6 are from subclass. The subclass is converted into superclass. So directly you cannot access. So what we need to do is, the subclass is converted into a superclass. So again, what we need to do, if I want to access subclass method, I should reconvert the superclass into subclass. Then you can access M5 and M6. So what is the superclass and what is the subclass? So class 3 is a subclass. So class 3 is converted into superclass. So I am reconverting the superclass into subclass, which is a variable. The variable name is A. That variable I would like to convert into the class 3 so that I can directly store it in class 3 variable CT. Let us assume CT. So I am converting this A into class 3. Why? Because class 3 is converted into class 2, so that directly I cannot access class 3 method. So means I will reconvert the class 2 into class 3 again. So this is, and with the help of CT, with the help of CC, so you can access so M5 and M6. Now observe. So CLS Java C test.java successfully compiled and Java space tester. So all the statements are executed. This is from hash code, and this is from class 1, and this is from class 2, and this is from class 3. So this is called as typecasting. This is called as typecasting. What is the typecasting? Converting one data format to another data format. Actually speak, the class 3 is converted into class 2. So that is the reason why class 3 methods directly we can add access. So that we reconvert this a variable into class 3 again. So I will use the a variable and which of the data type, that data type we are going to use within the parenthesis, and after that we are storing it. Okay, so this is how we'll do the typecasting. Suppose let us assume class 3. So now class 2, the object is superclass, and the type is subclass. So we are trying to store the superclass into subclass. We are trying the superclass into subtype. So is this possible? So Java C test.java. So the class 2 cannot be converted into class 3. The meaning is the superclass cannot be converted into subclass. We can store the subclass into superclass. But we cannot store superclass into subclass. Subclass. So this is the main funda you need to understand in the inheritance concept. We can store subclass into superclass, but we cannot store superclass into subclass. From subclass to superclass is possible, but superclass to subclass is not possible. So you need to understand this concept. So very, 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 very important. Okay, next, there are types of inheritance. So you can see the types of inheritance in Java. Okay, simple. So Java inheritance is a fundamental concept from the OOPS concept. Okay, so here three classes are there: dog class and cat class, animal like cloud. Okay, so these are the subclasses. And what is the superclass? Animal is the superclass. So you can observe the code. The superclass called as animal, and dog extend animal. Okay, so LHS and RHS. So LHS is a subclass and RHS is the superclass. And cat extends animal, and cow extends animal. Okay, so animal A can store dog and can store cat and can store cow. Why? Because this dog, cat, cow are the subclasses and animal is the superclass. The superclass can store any of its subclass, but subclass cannot store superclass object. Okay, so right, the types of inheritance: we have the single inheritance, we have multiple inheritance, we have hybrid inheritance, we have multi-level inheritance, and we have hierarchical inheritance. So these are the types of inheritance: single, multiple, multi-level, hybrid, and hierarchical. So if one class can extend only a single class, that means if single class can extend only a single class, so that is a single inheritance. There are only two classes. One parent and one child. That type of inheritance is called a single inheritance. So if it is multi-level, so here level 1, so class 3 extend class 2, and class 2 extend class 1, and class 1 extend object. So level 1, level 2, level 3. So this is called as multi-level inheritance. This is called as multi-level inheritance. So here observe, what is the single inheritance? Only one class derived one class, and base is only one class. So this type of inheritance is called a single inheritance. This type of inheritance is called a single inheritance. One superclass, one subclass. So that's it. So this type of inheritance is called as single inheritance. Then what is a multi-level? Multi-level means class 3 extend class 2, class 2 extend class 1, class 1 extend object. So this type of inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. You can take the example. So class 3 extend class 2, class 2 extend class 1, and there is nothing about class 1. So same example, but here they use vehicle and four-wheeler, car, and etc. Okay, next, hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance means from a single base class. From a single base class, if we have the two derived classes, that type of inheritance is called as hierarchical inheritance. Vehicle is the only superclass, single class. From the vehicle, the car obviously, as well as bus, or the derived or subclasses. So this type of is called as hierarchical. Then what is a multiple and hierarchical? Hierarchical means only a single base class, multiple child class. Single base class and multiple derived or child class. If it is a multiple, single derived class and multiple parent classes. Single derived class and multiple parent classes. That type of inheritance is called as multiple inheritance. But obviously Java does not support multiple inheritance with the classes. Multiple inheritance is not possible with the help of the classes. We can achieve multiple inheritance using interfaces. We are going to discuss what are the interfaces in the coming classes. Okay, interfaces, through interfaces only we can achieve the multiple inheritances. And hybrid inheritance is a mixture of two, the single and multiple inheritance. So when it comes to car and vehicle, it is a single inheritance. When it comes to car, vehicle, bus, and fare, it is a multi-level inheritance. It is a combination of two inheritances, single and multi-level inheritance. So this is what about categories of inheritances. So what are the categories? The categories are nothing but the single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hybrid inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance. So the similarity between hierarchical means one parent class, multiple child class. Multiple inheritance means one child class, multiple parents. But Java does not support multiple inheritance. Java supports only multi-level, single, hierarchical, and hybrid. But Java does not support multiple inheritance. So these are all about inheritance. Okay, I told you that arrays are object in the starting of this session. So we will discuss, we know about inheritance. So we can store the subclass into superclass, but we cannot store superclass into subclass, right? So coming to the point, so at the starting of the class, already we have discussed something about data types, primitive data types and non-primitive data type. The primitive data types are int, float, or something. Okay, so I will write again. So these are int, long, float, double, character, boolean, and byte. Short. So these are the primitive data types. And when you go to the API, there is a class called as a byte. there is a class called as byte, and this is a class, not a primitive data type. So you can observe the class name always start with a B, and this is the class. Boolean is also a class. Boolean is also a class, and a character is also a class. Character is also a class, and double is also a class. Double is also class. Float. Float is also class. Integer. Integer is also class. Long. Long is also class. So all are from same package, java.lang package. So the meaning is, for int we have integer. For long we have long. For float we have float. For double we have double. For char we have character. And for boolean we have boolean. For byte we have byte class. For short we have short class. The meaning is each and every class, for each and every primitive data type, for each and every primitive or data type, there is separate class. There is separate class. There is separate class. Okay. Okay. So right. So these are nothing but primitive or data types. Okay. Primitive or data types. Primitive data types. Primitive data types. And these are what? Primitive data types. And these are all what? Classes. These are all what? Classes. Available in java.lang package. Java.lang package. So these are classes, and these are available in java.lang package. So these classes are called as wrapper classes. These classes are nothing but wrapper classes. I already told you that primitive data types are different and classes are different. This classes comes under non-primitive. Non-primitive means object. So these are comes under the classes, wrapper classes comes under non-primitive. So to the non-primitive we use object. We use object. So why this wrapper classes? For each and every data type there is a separate class. There is a corresponding separate class. That classes are available in java.lang package. So these classes are called as wrapper classes. What is the use of this wrapper class means? We can represent or we can commit, we can convert primitive data into object oriented data. Primitive data into object data. So primitive data into object data. So primitive values into object. Primitive values into object. So this is not object data. So you can say object. So wrapper classes. Wrapper classes. What are the wrapper classes? Wrapper classes are the classes which are available in java.lang package for each and every primitive data type. For each and every primitive data type, there is a separate, for each and every primitive data types, there is separate class. There is separate class. So these classes are nothing but wrapper classes. These classes are nothing but wrapper classes. So these classes are used to convert primitive data into object. Primitive data into object. So these are the main uses of wrapper classes. These are the main uses of wrapper classes. Now I already told you arrays can be created in two ways. One is primitive array, another one is non-primitive array. Okay. For suppose, if I create integer array, so what is integer array? So this one is primitive or non-primitive? So this one is non-primitive. Why? Because we use integer. This is primitive array. This is primitive array. So we use values. Okay, right? So observe here. So there are two types of arrays. Okay, simple. This is non-primitive. Array. That means we use only objects. That is primitive array. This is primitive array. We use values. Both are not same. So primitive array is different. Non-primitive array is different. So within the non-primitive array, we use only object. Within the primitive array, we use only values. So integer is a class. Class is nothing but non-primitive. Integer is a data type. Data type is nothing but primitive array. Okay. So in the integer, we use object. In the int, we use values. Okay. Simple. If I create the object like this, int I is equal to some dimension, new int of 3, so that you can store like this: a of 0, I of 0 is equal to 102, I of 1 equals to 102, and I of 2 equals to 103. You can directly store, but if you create the array like this, j new integer of same 3 values, but you cannot store like this. Okay, why? Because this is object. You should create object and store. So j of 0, directly you cannot store 102 and 103, or 201 I will use 203. So j of 1 and j of 2. So what is the difference between this I array and j array? So I array is a primitive array. Directly you can store the values. But j array is nothing but object, non-primitive. So we use the object only. So new operator is for object creation. Okay, right. So simple. So CLS Java C tester Java. Okay. You can also do like this: for loop int I is equal to 0, or instead of I, k is equal to 0, k less than I dot length I plus plus. So not I k plus open the loop and close the loop. So system dot out dot println I of k. So first array, I dot length spelling mistake. So 101, 201, and instead of next per loop for another thing. So here j dot length and j of k. So simple. So CLS Java C and Java space. So 201, 202, 203. So instead of integer and new, actually speak, we need to store the object only, but I'll try to insert directly. I'll try to insert it directly as a values. If it is a non-primitive, actually we use object, but I will try to insert directly as a values. Sorry, Java C tester Java and Java tester. Same output, same output. So within the integer, why? Because actually it is a non-primitive. Actually it is a non-primitive, but still, so we are storing values. Why? Because these are wrapper classes. These are wrapper classes. To the wrapper classes, we can use auto boxing. We can use, what is the concept? Auto boxing. What is auto boxing? So the values can be converted into objects. So auto boxing, unboxing. Auto boxing and unboxing. The unboxing is nothing but object into values. Object into values. So these are the concept when it comes to the wrapper classes. When it comes to the wrapper classes, what is auto boxing? The values can be converted as object. And unboxing, what is unboxing? The object can be converted into values. So these are the two things we need to understand about the wrapper classes. And simple. Suppose if it is object array. So already we have discussed in the inheritance concept, object is the superclass to all the classes. Object is the superclass to all the classes. Okay, so I will use int I less than a dot length. Okay, I plus plus and f I. So if it is object, so this is not possible. Okay, if it is object, you can store. Why? Because integer is unboxing and auto boxing. Values can be converted into object can be converted into values. Now the string std 201 and some 98.3. So now you can observe this one is integer and this one is a string and this one is a double. So I will show you what is exactly. Okay, system.out.print, then followed by space plus f I dot get class. Okay, simple. Java C test.java and Java test. Simple. Wait, something you need to use \n. So Java C test.java and Java test. So you can observe this is nothing but integer object. This is nothing but string object, and this is nothing but double object. So what is the conclusion? In a single array, we are storing integer, we are storing string, we are storing double. So that is the reason why. So arrays are nothing but object. So you can observe integer is a class, string is a class, and double is also class. So if it is a class, non-primitive means object. So you can store different types of elements. Into the single array. So that is the reason why arrays in Java are called as object. Okay. So what we have discussed now, in today's session, so we have discussed about arrays. Arrays are nothing but similar data elements and group of similar data elements, as well as arrays or object. Why? Because we use the different object into the single array. So we can use integer, we can store string, we can store double, ఇట్స్ ఆల్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ది క్లాసెస్. ఎట్లా పాసిబుల్ అయింది, ఎట్లా చెప్పొచ్చు మీరు పాసిబుల్ అయింది అనేది, లైక్ ఇంటీజర్ is a directly subclass to object, string is a subclass to object, every Java class is subclass to object. So that is the reason why we can store subclass into object. We can store subclass into object. This is integer object, so directly we can store into the object. The string is a subclass to object, directly you can store, and double is a subclass to object class, so that you can store. This is the concept of inheritance. So with the help of it, we can achieve that arrays or object in Java. So we can store the values, we can get the values by using indexes. Indexes always start from 0, and we have a length keyword, and we have a length keyword to find out the size of the array. And we can create two types of arrays, primitive arrays and non-primitive arrays. So to the primitive arrays we use values, to the non-primitive array we use the object. And after that, so there are two types of arrays, single dimensional and multi-dimensional arrays. So that is not issue, big issue. Okay, right. And after that we have started about inheritance. So oops concept, the oops concept is nothing but there are class, object, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation and abstraction. If any language support those concepts, that language become the object oriented programming language. We started inheritance. So inheritance is nothing but getting the properties from one class to another class, parent class to child class, base class to derived class, whatever it is. But when you apply the inheritance, so you need to write extends keyword. To the extends keyword we have LHS and RHS. So LHS one is called as a subclass and RHS one is called as a superclass. And when you create the object, directly it will go to the from class 3 it will go to class 2, from class 2 it will go to the class 1, and class 1 it will go to the object. The couple of object and multiple objects will be created, and from subclass to superclass we can access. And what is the superclass to all the Java classes? Object is the superclass to all the Java classes. You can store the subclass into superclass, but you cannot store the superclass into subclass, but you cannot store superclass into subclass. So this is not possible. So you can say like this, so this is not possible. Just a minute. So this is not possible. You can store subclass into superclass. You can store subclass into superclass, but you cannot store superclass into subclass. So when you try to store subclass into superclass, there is a typecasting. Converting one data type into another data type. And if you take the any primitive data type, there is a class in java.lang package, and these classes are called as wrapper classes. Wrapper classes are non-primitive, so means object we need to use. Why these wrapper classes? So wrapper classes use it to convert primitive data into the object. So when you use the wrapper classes, you can get auto boxing and unboxing. Auto boxing means values can be converted into the object. And what is unboxing? Unboxing means object into the values. So, and after that, so we have discussed about what is integer and what is int. Non-primitive array we use object, and primitive array we use the values. So this is about inheritance. So we need to discuss some more important topics like exception handling, strings and packages. So we'll continue in the next session. So thank you everyone.